Today we're going to be looking at the match between G2 Esports and TSM that took place at Rift Rivals this morning. I'm recording this early afternoon on Wednesday, the first day the Rift Rivals actually took place. I wasn't able to get to week 5 of the North American LCS, but I thought what a better way to kind of kick off the week after Independence Day or for the 4th of July with, some classic North America versus EU League of Legends. So I was watching the games this morning, and I really wanted to look at the G2 versus TSM game and the G2 versus the Cloud9 game. I'm not going to spoil it for you, but I just really did not want to do a video review of the G2 versus C9 game, but I thought that this game, G2 versus TSM, was really just great overall. So we're going to take a pretty in-depth look at it, sort of go with a similar formula that we went with 2 weeks ago. We're going to take a look at picks and bans, and then we're going to look at the most important plays that took place across the game. This is the only game that I'm going to do today. I think that the last series that we did, looking at a 3-game series, it was just too long. There was just too much. And I really want to focus in on this game, keep it a little bit shorter, keep it a little bit more engaging than the last one. So I think we're just going to jump right into picks and bans, and we'll take a look at what's going on here. So we see G2, their first ban was LeBlanc. This makes a lot of sense. LeBlanc doesn't have that high pick priority in Europe, but it has a ton of pick priority in North America. We see the North American teams are much better at taking this pick and kind of running it around the map and really forcing objectives and side waves. LeBlanc has this really interesting thing where she can use Hextech Gunblade in order to lifesteal just a ridiculous amount of health whenever she gets any sort of Hextech proc on her passive that will go onto a ton of minions. So she's able to put the sigil on all of the minions, I think using her W, but she's able to pop that sigil. Now, the way that works is, even though Distortion is an AoE attack, the sigil is actually a single target. So it gets that full spell vamp on it, which allows LeBlanc to take a ton of damage, to just clear a wave, and she's back to full health, and she is just unbelievable at pushing those side waves. Now, if someone takes LeBlanc, what you're really forced to do is take a Kassadin in response, because it's about the only thing that can really push with her, and even then, the Kassadin doesn't have the wave clear or the necessary tools to really play the LeBlanc over the course of a long, drawn-out, continual siege. G2 then bans Thresh, and Thresh is just a huge power pick right now in general in the support position. So Leah is a pretty good play here as well. I'm not a huge fan of the Talia, but I know it's really strong in the right hands, and I think Bjergsen's an excellent Talia player. I've seen him play it multiple times, and he's very excellent on the champion. TSM now here goes with their bans. They're looking at Rumble, Zac, and Caitlyn. I really like the Zac and Caitlyn bans. I know I've talked about this before, but I think that Zac is just too strong right now, even with recent changes, to not warrant banning him out. And Caitlyn is so strong and has such a good ability to really control areas, control zones, make objectives almost impossible for the other team to contest. So it makes her so strong. Between that, zone control just in general, and her laning phase. Her laning phase is unbelievably oppressive, and she even transitions unbelievably well into the late game, especially now that they have that Warlord's Bloodlust into charging items, the Static Shiv and the Rapid Fire Cannon, and make her unbelievably potent and definitely ban-worthy. I think she and I think LeBlanc should be 100% pick ban in this event over the course of the next couple days. Now we look into picks. G2 Esports picked the Syndra right off the top. Very strong. Not sure if I would have picked it first, but I definitely see why they would. There really isn't a counter for Syndra right now. She's very powerful, and she can oppress nearly any lane. TSM responds with the Galio and the Elise. Both are very strong power picks. A lot of people consider to be Elise one of the strongest jungle champions right now. Probably the strongest, though I think Lee Sin's right up there. You see actually G2 instead of picking Lee Sin with the Rek'Sai, which I haven't seen a lot of success from Rek'Sai, but I could see it being pretty powerful. It has a really interesting early pathing, which we're actually going to get into this game, which is kind of cool. TSM get the Galio, which got nerfed again, makes it a little bit harder for its wave clear. but still really powerful. Rek'Sai really recently got buffed, and it went from sort of like this mobility tank and a ward bot into a little bit more of like an assassin or a little bit more of a bruiser. So that's kind of cool to see it come back into the meta. Braum was taken. The casters were talking a little bit about how they think that Braum is the strongest support on this patch. I don't know if I would go that far, but Braum definitely has seen a very high rise in priority, not only in North America, but in Europe as well. So we'll see how that kind of plays out over the course of this game and over the course of this next week. Because we're going to see when we get back into the regular season after Rift Rivals, it's going to be the same patch as this, 7.13, and we'll see if teams continue to use that Braum as they go forward in the course of their season. TSM responds with the Tahm Kench, which is supposed to be like a counter to Braum. I see why it would be. I have never, in my memory, I'm in a support main, everything. I watched tons of League of Legends. I don't remember a Braum Tahm Kench lane in recent memory. Maybe a year or two ago it might have happened, but I have no idea how this lane plays out. I've never seen it in, oh wow, an unbelievable amount of time. So now we're actually going to jump into the next ban phase, and we see the TSM wants to focus on G2's remaining positions. So in order to do that, they focus Ashe and Renekton. Both very strong bans. And G2 responds with a Gnar ban and a Varus ban. I can't jump into their heads. I don't think anyone really has a great idea of what the AD carry meta is, but I guess G2 did not want TSM to get what would probably be in that second tier. First tier you have Caitlyn kind of by herself, and then that second tier you have probably Varus, Ashe, maybe Jhin, maybe Tristana. I don't think that tier list is nearly as defined as it used to be. But they both, want to swipe those two away. And then the top bans are just, I think, sort of target bans. I don't think Gnar is that unbelievably powerful. But the Renekton is definitely a power pick right now, and that makes a lot of sense for TSM to get rid of. So then TSM comes back and grabs Tristana, like I said, sort of in that second tier. But now look at G2's pick here, and I think it's just really kind of cool. They go with Kog'Maw, and they go with Gragas. Now take a look at G2's lineup. You have this really sick triple tank composition with the Gragas, with the Rek'Sai, and you have the Braum. And you're going to allow that Kog'Maw, sort of what we used to call a Juggernaut comp, to really get engaged. Now, you don't have the Orianna in the mid lane, which is probably what you would really want in a Juggernaut comp, but you have that Syndra that could do so much damage on the back from the back. And it's a lot of single target damage, but still very powerful. Stuns can be very impactful over the course of the fight. She just churn out damage so unbelievably quickly. Whereas TSM has the last pick. I was really thinking something like a Fiora, or I don't know, maybe a Kennen, but the Jarvan really just, I didn't see it coming. But we'll see as this game goes on that Jarvan and Galio have a very interesting way of interacting where you can Jarvan ult someone, you can use Cataclysm, and then Galio can ult on into that Cataclysm and just wreak havoc on a team. Now, going out of this pick ban phase, I think that G2 really has a very strong team comp. Outside of, you would prefer an Orianna instead of the Syndra, but other than that, what a perfect comp to have a Kog'Maw in. And even though I would prefer Rek'Sai to be a little bit more of a damage-focused, a little bit more of an assassin build, you're going to see as we go forward that G2 actually takes him in much more of a defensive tank item focus. You're going to see him actually go for Cinderhulk, elect to go to Cinderhulk instead of the Warrior enchantment, which is what I would naturally assume Rek'Sai would be on, and what I think Rek'Sai would be most powerful with. But going with that Cinderhulk route, it just gives that much more of a tank line for the Kog'Maw to sit behind and just wreak absolute havoc on the TSM team. But this, I guess, what any Kog'Maw game really comes down to is, can the team with the Kog'Maw keep the dive of the other team off the Kog'Maw? If that happens, the Kog'Maw can win the game. But if that doesn't happen, Kog'Maw just gets instantly obliterated, and there's nothing for that team to do because all of their damage hopes are in Kog'Maw. And this is a little bit different because they have a dual threat with the Syndra instead of like the Orianna or the Lulu, where you just, shield, ult the Kog'Maw. This has that second damage threat, but still, if that first primary damage threat of Kog'Maw goes down, those team fights are exceedingly hard to win. So we'll see as this game goes forward, which is the upper hand. Just that Jarvan 4 and Galio combination, is that going to be able to really finish off the Kog'Maw, or is that Kog'Maw going to reign supreme? And then another thing to think about is what build is Kog'Maw going to go? Because there's a lot of different builds, and I haven't seen it recently. Are you going to see like a Blade into crit build? Are you going to see a Rage Blade build? Like, there's a lot of different ways that Kog'Maw can go. Or even, I mean, AP Kog'Maw isn't really that far out of the realm of possibility, even though, you know, it's in a carry position, not in mid lane. There's just so many ways to play it, right? Like, there is no, I would say, set way to play Kog'Maw. So we'll see how this sort of plays out. I mean, there's a lot of question marks, especially for Game 1. Like, is North America going to be the dominant region here, or is G2 going to be sort of that dominant team? And as we go forward, it's going to be very interesting to see how all of the pieces play out. And I always liken League of Legends to chess. And it's whoever can play the map and play the long game better can win the game. Or you can actually win it in the early game as well with, you know, how you open it out. But it's all about utilizing your pieces in the best way possible. And we'll see which team is able to do that. Because now the pieces have been selected, the game is starting, and it's up to the players to try to get advantages however they can. So let's jump into the first place here. So the first thing I think we actually should jump into is looking at Rek'Sai's early pathing. Because Rek'Sai is unlike most junglers who have really set and defined jungle patterns where they'll either clear a little bit and then back, or they'll do a full clear. Now, Rek'Sai has the ability to get a really early level 3 and then gank lanes almost immediately. And we're going to see the Trick is actually going to at least do the starting portion of that early level 3 gank. What you do is you actually take all of the small raptors in the raptor pit, and then bot actually leashes your red buff for you, and it puts you just unbelievably far ahead of the other jungler. As you can see, Elise is still clearing out raptors. So not only is he now down 2 camps, but he has a ton of experience. He's actually only 1 camp away from getting level 3 and being able to gank. That is unbelievable to think about that. You know, only a couple seconds in, really, he's already ready to get going and ganking lanes. But you're going to see that he actually decides against completing that, you know, route into a level 3 gank, and decides he would rather go and just clear his jungle out. He's going to run over here to Krugs instead of going and ganking right away. Like, he could gank right now top lane and have a really strong impact on that lane, but rather decides that farming is the way he wants to go. I don't really understand why you don't, when you have that early lead, go and run and try to gank a lane. Now, those ganks, you know, aren't the easiest thing in the world to do, and they're not 100% guaranteed. But at least showing that initiative right off, it would be very good. And if you could blow a flash, if you could, you know, just force the other team to play a little bit more defensively up top, you know, it really just sway that lane a little bit. You know, you never know what it could do. But instead, he decides to go for that farm-heavy approach. It doesn't go straight away for the gank. I don't know. I mean, I would have preferred to see him go gank at level 3, but I'm not going to blame him for not doing it. Trick's a little bit more of a farm-oriented jungler, doesn't like going for those early ganks as much, mostly because if the ganks don't work and you don't really get any sort of meaningful advantage, you lose a bit of pressure over the other jungler, or you lose your advantage or your lead. Now we're going to see Svenskeren actually is coming bot lane and is able to force Sven's flash right here. A Kog'Maw without flash, especially early, is so unbelievably vulnerable to really anything, either from the other team or from jungling. So really good early game aggression by Svenskeren here. I mean, that in itself, even though you don't get a kill, is a huge, huge advantage for your bottom lane to have. And just really good, you know, it's a really clear difference between Svenskeren, who went and made the most out of his early clear, and Trick, who, in my opinion, didn't really make the most out of the jungler early clear. So the game's set up now. TSM has got about a 300 to 400 gold lead, and the game's really starting to progress. One of the things to think about as we're going is, how is this mid lane going to play out between Perkz and Galio? Well, Perkz and Bjergsen, but the champions are Syndra and Galio. I think that in a lot of ways, Bjergsen should have some trouble early game, but I think the late game you're going to see that the Galio is going to have a significantly higher impact. But I wonder how long that's going to take, or how much jungle pressure is going to be focused on the mid lane to either keep that Syndra ahead or allow that Galio to sort of overtake the Syndra. So as we go forward, we'll keep an eye out for that. So here we have a play on the top lane where we actually see Trick coming up for a gank, and we see Svenskeren there as well. So what we're going to see is this really crazy 2v2 where actually Hanser gets his damage on both individuals right at the start. And you would think that in that scenario that the Elise should just die because they didn't realize that the Rek'Sai was there, but he does eventually die, but they're able to trade kills here. And Haunter does a really good job of fighting this and actually eventually flashes it. So just really a fantastic job by both teams here. We're going to actually see a replay. You'll see that the flag by Haunter, we'll wait for the replay, but I should be coming up here just in a brief second. But as we'll see when this play happens, that his flag actually hits both Trick and Expect, which shouldn't really happen. Expect gets it right there, which actually that damage really early on is what really helps them grab that kill on Trick. That shouldn't have happened. That was a misplay by Expect to put himself so close. Svenskaren's in a tough position here because he knows he's going to die no matter what. So he tries to get a little bit of damage off with his Q, and then Haunter doesn't have any mana left, so he's forced to just kind of run away. And he eventually uses Flash in order to get away from a Q from Expect. So really good play by both teams. I would say that Expect had a little mechanical mistake there, and First Blood actually goes to Haunter, who's going to get a nice little lead in the top lane, already at 13 CS and that First Blood gold. Even though Expect got a kill back, it's not that extra First Blood, so a little bit of an extra bonus for TSM there, and definitely a very, very strong play by TSM, but also a pretty big mistake by Expect, who, if he didn't make that mistake, might have not died in that 2v2. So now we're going to move on a little bit further into the game and check out sort of what's going on. Specifically, we're going to look at the build that Trick actually goes with, and I'll talk a little bit about why that's important when analyzing this game. We can see here that Rek'Sai now currently owns a Bomby Cinder, and what the Bomby Cinder indicates is that he's going with the Cinder Hulk line. And what that means is that for that team comp, you're going to have 3 really powerful tanks for that Kog'Maw to sit behind. I sort of mentioned at the beginning, but it's important to see how early he actually goes for this. Now, the interesting thing about this is when you go that Cinder Hulk route, it kind of hurts your wave clear, which is why eventually he's going to end up grabbing a Tiamat into Titanic Hydra. So it really kind of hurts his early game skirmishing ability, but what it allows is for him to scale and him to get really big and really tanky and provide CC and wards and pressure all across the map and allow that Kog'Maw to just sit back and almost be like an artillery barrage on the opposing team. That being said, it does not mean that Rek'Sai is not a powerful ganker early on. Rek'Sai has so much mobility, has so much, I shouldn't say so much CC, but it has CC and has really good gank assist. And we're looking at that Gragas as well, who also has really strong gank assist. And Gragas is really interesting because you can actually stop a flag and drag. And as I talk about Trick's ability to gank, here we see Expect and Trick do a really good job, grab a really easy gank and really easy kill. And it was interesting that Rek'Sai ended up taking that kill to try to, I guess, propel him a little bit farther ahead. But I think it would have been really good for Gragas to get that kill and, sort of take over that 1v1 a little bit, get a little bit more armor under his belt. But very good gank by Trick. Actually evens up the gold a little bit here. But Bjergsen and Svenskeren actually are doing a really good job of pressuring that mid lane. Perkz had to blow his cleanse right there, which means that a return gank is very much possible. And actually, as we're going to see, even though we have a little bit of a skirmish bot lane, we see Svenskeren in our minimap wrapping around, and they're actually going to go right away for that extra gank. And you can see Perkz is going to have to preemptively flash, but Bjergsen's able to get the taunt into the cocoon, and it's just a kill. And that's really big for that mid lane. It's going to help, start tilting that mid lane towards Bjergsen. We can see he has a Dark Seal and already has a stack. That Dark Seal is going to be huge for Bjergsen as he goes forward. So we'll just, continue to watch how this game plays out. That was really good pathing and a really good play by Svenskeren to blow the cleanse right away and then to come right back and punish him for it. We just saw Perkz blow both of his summoners in a matter of 30 seconds or less than a minute. So unbelievable play by Svenskeren and really good for TSM. Now TSM, even though the gold had been sort of tied up after that gank by Trick top, TSM now again has a really nice about 700 gold lead. So really back and forth play by both teams. I think both teams are playing very well. And this is what it comes down to. You have 2 excellent teams here. Now we have the gank top, and actually what happens here is you see Svenskaren's coming over the top to gank, but Bjergsen, now who has ultimate, is able to Skyfall in, or Grand Entrance in, Skyfall's Pantheon's ult is able to Grand Entrance in and help get a kill, and then he's able to teleport bot so that G2 isn't able to get the bottom turret, but that Hauntzer and Svenskeren are able to get the top turret. So a really good cross map play by Bjergsen, roaming from the mid lane, going up top lane in order to helping to get a kill, and then TPing bot lane in order to stop them from taking the turret. Now, sort of a consolation prize, G2 is able to grab this Windrake, but in the grand scheme of things, Windrakes aren't really that good. I mean, definitely not a game-changing type of a thing. So definitely now TSM has a 2k gold lead and showing really strong crossplay decision-making, and definitely looking like a top team. That being said, G2 also is looking like a very, very good team, just not able to play up to TSM's level right now. That was also a very critical juke by Perks right there. That could have been him falling even further behind to the Galio, but really good sidestep, forces Svenskeren to flash, and then still doesn't even get the cocoon. So let's keep our eye on how this game continues to play out as these two top teams play against each other. Now, what separates good teams from great teams is their ability to make huge plays that the other team doesn't see coming and really build really strong leads for themselves. So we're going to see that G2 here is going to go for an engaged bottom lane, and you can see they have the Braum, the Kog'Maw, and the Rek'Sai there. They're really looking for a fight, but TSM is too. Now you see TSM has Double Lift and Biofrost down there, so the Tristana and the Tahm Kench. And so you'd think the numbers advantage definitely has to go to G2 here right now. Well, you're wrong, actually. Tahm Kench is running away, grabbing the Elise, ulting immediately to make it a 3v3. But it's not just 3v3, because Galio has cross-map pressure with his ultimate. Look at that play. Got the double taunt on both Trick and Miffy. This is going to end up being a 4-for-0 after the TPs come in, and TSM just wipes the floor with G2. Unbelievable play. Perks is just now getting there because remember, he doesn't have TP, he doesn't have a semi-global ult like Galio does. Now we see TSM ballooning to over a 3k gold lead at 14 minutes. Just really unbelievable play, and it was because the Tahm Kench left, grabbed the Elise, came in, and then the Bjergsen ultimate on Galio was just perfectly placed and perfectly done. I saw TSM playing Galio earlier in the year, especially against Cloud9. I think they played it twice, and I thought that the Galio look just didn't know what it was doing. It wasn't making that big of an impact with his ultimate, but look at this ultimate. Huge double knock-up and just unbelievable play, getting Q damage down on multiple targets, just eviscerating that team. Hauntzer's play on J4 right here also was very excellent, and we can see just how strong this team comp is. Even though at first glance that G2 lineup with the triple tank and the Kog'Maw looks so powerful, they're going to have a very difficult time dealing with this dive that's coming from TSM. So what I actually want to sort of end this video, it's going to be a little bit shorter of a video because I don't want to go through all the smalls that happened in this game. But I want to show you a team fight that is executed properly by TSM and a team fight that is executed not properly by TSM. And I mentioned this earlier. What defines a good fight for TSM is their ability to get good ultimates on both Perks and Sven. If you look at this Hauntzer's ultimate here, it's used on Expect, Trick, and Miffy, not the targets he wanted. And as we see, when he's not getting those targets properly selected, it allows Perks and Sven to put down a ridiculous amount of damage that TSM cannot handle. Now they end up only losing in a 2-for-1 here, but what we're talking about is the ability to really isolate that Kog'Maw or to really get on top of that Kog'Maw and not allow it to deal damage. And TSM was not able to do that, even though their team comp is very well set up to do it. Now Haunter does something really stupid there and decides to flag and drag in. Don't know what he was thinking there. I think the caster said he maybe thought he might have been able to help secure the buff, but still, it wouldn't have been worth him dying anyway. So, that was a team fight that was executed very poorly. So Haunter initially gets to the backline, as you'll see here, and does damage to Sven. But instead of ulting him, decides that he would rather ult those 3 members there. And the Grand Challenge was actually interrupted there and was not able to go through. So just really poor execution by TSM, and they were not able to kill that Kog'Maw. As you can see, Kog'Maw is almost full health now. Bjergsen does a really good job of continually doing damage to him, but because of the build that Kog'Maw went, he was able to continually lifesteal and came out of that, still at like half health, which just shows the TSM was not able to isolate that target. Now, after looking at the way the TSM was not able to properly isolate the carries, we're going to take a look at a fight in which they are able to properly get on top of those carries. So here we're setting up for the last play. You'll see the main 4 members go to the top lane, and Hanser's going to loop around here, and it's going to end up flanking G2. So what we're going to end up seeing is TSM being able to get on top of both Perks and Sven and get just a perfectly executed fight that ends up winning the game. So let's watch how this plays out here as TSM begins their siege. You can see Hanser coming in for the flank, ends up flagging and dragging in, and gets an ultimate on both Perks and Sven, and then Grand Challenge immediately following. The whole time Kog'Maw's running away and is at almost no health. It takes a while to actually finish him off, but they're able to get the kill on both Perks and on Sven right away. And when you're able to take out the 2 major damage threats on a team, especially in a Juggermaw composition, it's just you're going to win the fight. And DSM is able to sort of route the troops. They already have bottom inhibitor. They just took top inhibitor, and with the Tristana, they're able to just bully down and grab these towers and eventually take the game. TSM, now they had some mistakes, and I think their team fighting wasn't perfectly executed. But when they were able to get it done, when Hanser was able to get that correct flank, they just completely destroyed G2 and took this game and really started NA's race to be the best off really well. And we'll see how the rest of these games play out. I think that just on the eye test, I think TSM looks unbelievable, and I think they're going to be really tough to stop over the course of this tournament. But let's remember, the way this tournament works is the best North American team at the end of this group stage plays the best European team at the end of the group stage, and whoever wins that series wins Rift Rivals. So I know personally, I'm rooting for Cloud9 to go out and win that. We'll see if they're able to do it. I'm hoping if Cloud9 can't do it, then a North American team does it. Because, you got to have pride in where you're from. So I will probably only do this one game, looking at Rift Rivals. Maybe I'll take a look at the final series. But for now, thanks for watching. Make sure to check out The Edge. Make sure to check out the Week 4 VOD review that I did in sort of a similar style. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.